The standard of political journalism in this country has been appalling for years now. This isn't news to many of you, I'm sure. It was never more blatantly exposed, though, than it was by the emergence of a certain Jeremy Corbyn as Labour leader, and the panic this induced in the establishment order from the BBC detonating any semblance of impartiality it still had, from the infamous Newsnight mock-up of Corbyn in a Russian hat to Laura Kuenssberg commenting on postal votes that hadn't even been opened, not to mention breaching the BBC's already risible impartiality guidelines in her coverage of him. She's not alone, though. The billionaire press barons, the Tories pulling the strings of the BBC, they all went for him, terrified of him and us as his supporters, as they were. 2017 is the closest this country came to beating Rupert Murdoch, a man who resembles more and more with every passing year a testicle with teeth, after he mockingly cheers every election how he picks the winner. We've gone backwards since, sadly. Now, where the likes of Laura Kuenssberg and Robert Peston are arguably the originators of client journalism, of being glorified secretaries for anonymous sources, taking notes and repeating them verbatim on the evening news, many others have followed. And when it came to Corbyn, slamming the guy became almost a sport for them. Now, this is, of course, history. And with Starmer now having been Labour leader for 2 years, why on earth would we be concerned about Corbyn anymore? And quite simply, it's because he's still living rent-free in the heads of these alleged news people. Supposedly the people to keep us informed, yet have become too close to vested interests and now insist on dumbing us down instead to think more like them. How else could a guy who would have renationalised energy and other essential services, thus averting the current cost of living crisis, be character assassinated to the point the public handed Boris Johnson an 80-seat majority, when many already knew what a liability and a liar he already was? They convinced us that a lifelong anti-racist was more racist than Mr. Muslim women look like bank robbers or letterboxes, Mr. Pickaninnies with watermelon smiles. They did their job really well, didn't they? Jeremy Corbyn commented on a Morning Star article earlier this week talking about a mass grave discovered in the town of Bucha in Ukraine after the Ukrainian army successfully took it back from the Russians. 280 people shot in the back of the head, including a 14-year-old boy. Corbyn tweeted that the incident should be investigated and those responsible held accountable. Now, to you or me, this seems an obvious conclusion. Why were these people shot? On what orders? Who ordered it? Who carried it out? Families of those affected still alive surely deserve answers to what happened here. When someone gets killed in this country, you expect an investigation. Why is this different? A life is a life, right? Well, you'd think it was open season on him as mainstream journalists let themselves down once more by accusing Corbyn of being an apologist for asking for evidence. We've been here before, of course, over the Salisbury poisonings. He was accused of being a stooge for Putin then too, despite having a long history of opposing the man, as the Tory Fibs Twitter account has shown. Corbyn has called for Putin assets to be frozen, condemned him for war crimes, rigging elections, and of course, starting this war and more besides. Here's what Jeremy actually said about Salisbury.
The evidence points towards Russia on this. Therefore, the responsibility must be borne by those that made the weapon, those that brought the weapon into the country, and those that used the weapon. What I was asking was questions about the identity of the weapon, questions about the reference to the Weapons Convention, and also the support of other allies in this. Those are the questions I was asking. That's what oppositions are there for.
The evidence points to Russia, he said, on camera. No defence of Putin, just a desire to see a proper investigation completed and the people responsible brought to justice. His comments now are in the same light. But just as before, our mainstream media just has to prove how crap it is. Dan Hodges, never one to dodge a chance to attack Corbyn, went in feet first saying Corbyn can't condemn Russia or Putin. Well, he can, and he has done so for years. You've just seen a video clip of him doing it. He was joined by Michael Crick, a lifelong Labour member, you might be surprised to hear, and a founding member of Channel 4's news team, asking who Corbyn thinks is responsible for the atrocities. He has now since deleted that tweet. Aisha Hazarika, an example of what the right wing would like the left wing to be, still somewhat right wing, also attacked Corbyn once again, thinking yourself ever so clever and ever so funny. How is the comedy career going, Aisha? You'll make up your mind what you want to be one day. If you were that clever, you wouldn't have seen Labour decimated in 2010 and 2015 when you were working as an advisor for the party, eh? And then there's William Crawley, who works for the BBC in Northern Ireland, felt the need to contribute too. Full impartiality there, of course. Sadly, it wasn't confined to journalists. Alice Cairns, a Tory MP, and Gavin Newlands, an SNP MP, were among those also condemning Corbyn. Blairite former MP Mary Cray also went for him for not saying the specific word Russia. And former Tory MP David Gauke again dragged up previous smears and even more stupidly claims a ceasefire equates to Ukraine surrendering. It's actually really important for a proper investigation to be done, not only to find out who the exact perpetrators are, but from where the orders came from, and if this is to, for example, make up part of a case against Putin for war crimes. You kind of need the evidence directly linking him to it for a successful prosecution. Screaming, "It's Russia!" isn't proof. In fact, as some news outlets have reported, there are possible grounds to suspect the infamous Azov battalion to potentially be involved here. A staged atrocity. I would hate to imagine such an act being carried out, but these things have happened before. The most risible part of all of this, however, is that Corbyn was not the only politician to say this. Boris Johnson had actually made exactly the same point. Perhaps Alice Cairns has an issue with him too, though hasn't said as much. But then hypocrisy never seems to trouble Tories. You need a conscience or a soul for that. That Corbyn is still vilified like this shows how much he still scares vested interests, how pathetic too many of our political representatives still are, and how dishonest our mainstream media definitely is. And this is why I do what I do. This is why I encourage people to support independent media, especially now more than ever, when honest voices amplifying right-thinking people and honest evidenced views are few and far between and in danger of being drowned out. Our media, our mainstream media, is among the most mistrusted in the world, and for good reason. And as for all the Corbyn bashers out there jumping on this, there's only one bit of footage I could possibly leave you with.
He's still living rent-free in your head, doo-dar, doo-dar. He's still living rent-free in your head, do-da-doo-dar day. In your head all night, in your head all day. He's still living rent-free in your head, oh-da-doo-dar day.